Hello, I'm Arielle Free and I present the Early Breakfast Show Monday to Thursday on Radio 1. For me, talking has always been one of my main skills. In fact, in every school report, it would be like teachers saying, Arielle's good, she kind of works hard, but she needs to stop talking. And it's quite funny because now I can basically say that I made a career out of it. I often have people say to me, you just constantly talk, there's just content. So I feel like presenting, but for me, was always going to be the route that I wanted to take. So although I host and present the show, to make that 3-hour show live or pre-recorded, I usually have to have a producer with me. And if it's a daytime show, you'll have a producer and a TA, which is a team assistant. And their job is to help kind of make our ideas come alive on the radio. Alongside my producers, I work really closely with the music team. Their job is to give me kind of all of the information on the newest releases or the artists maybe that I should be looking at. And it's a real team effort. So even though I'm the one in front of the mic, to get to that point of actually making a show, I have to have my producer, you have to have the music team. And then alongside them, you've got all these incredible other roles, such as the live events team. So it's not just the presenter role that is available within a radio station. In fact, a lot of people start somewhere, maybe they start as a TA and then they go into the music team, or they start in the music team and they actually realise that they much prefer to be in the production side of things. And there's real avenues to allow you to cross over there. Also, we now have BBC Sounds, which is a lot of podcast content, which is completely different in terms of how you make and produce that. And there's just so many different opportunities that it's not just being a presenter behind the mic. So Daisy Jarrett is a wonderful AP, which stands for assistant producer. She used to work on Greg James's Breakfast Show, finding loads of funny stories and anecdotes, things to talk about to a massive audience. And now she's recently just moved to DJ Target Show, which is a specialist music show, and she loves that genre of music.
Hi, I'm Daisy. I'm an assistant producer at Radio 1 and 1 Extra, so make radio shows for The Breakfast Show on Radio 1 and specialist shows on 1 Extra. I didn't love school, I just did subjects that I thought would be fun to do. So I did English and drama and film studies, but really I was just focused on maybe going into something media related. And yeah, drama and English properly tapped into that. So I wouldn't say my route into radio was really completely smooth. I went to uni in Nottingham, to Nottingham Trent, and I did broadcast journalism and did loads of student radio. I joined the student radio station there and I was head of music on the station, and I'd always loved Radio 1. So I kind of set my sights on going there. So when I finished uni, I moved to London and just got a job in an office. And just tried to get any kind of experience. So at radio stations at the weekend, I did shows of my own on community radio stations and just really tried to do as much radio as I possibly could until the opportunity came up for a team assistant job at Radio 1 and 1 Extra. So I applied for that and then got the job. But it was like a freelance job, so I needed something flexible at the same time I could do, so I could be on hand for any shifts that came up. So I also worked at the same time in a call centre in Brixton, just to make some money to support myself living in London. And I did that for a couple of years until eventually a contract came up, applied for that, managed to get that, and that was 2.5 years ago now. And yeah, we launched a breakfast show and it's been amazing. A regular day on The Breakfast Show starts when I wake up about 4:30, and from 4:30 up until when the show starts at 7, it's very much getting as much content as you possibly can. So scrolling Twitter, scrolling Instagram, seeing what's happened in the news, looking up what's going on in the world up until the show starts. And then from when the show's on, it's just as busy. We are looking at tweets, we're looking at the texts that are coming in, we're calling back people to see if they fancy coming on the show. And then after the show, you're pre-recording stuff for stuff that you're going to play on the show the next day. So The rest of the day is pretty much planning for the week of shows and all the projects and the fun stuff and booking the guests to come in. And it's very, very busy up until when the day finishes in the afternoon. Honestly, just go for something that you're really interested in. So if you think, I'm quite interested in music, listen to loads of music. Like, this is the time where you need to just become an absolute expert at the thing that you like. So go for things that you're really, really interested in, and that's how you'll be really good at the job that you end up doing, regardless of what it is.
So Leanne is a commissioning podcast producer, and her job is to find great ideas and to make them into a podcast series. So if you have something that you think is worth hearing, she's the lady that you want to pitch it to.
My name is Leanne. I'm a commissioning producer in the BBC Sounds Pop Hub team, and that means I kind of look after development of podcasts across mainly Radio 1, 1Extra and Asian Network. I really enjoyed school. I was always like super creative, so I loved doing art, and for the longest time I actually thought I was going to be a fashion designer. So I was like super into textiles. I even designed my own prom dress when I left in year 11, and it was just so fantastic. And I genuinely thought that was the path I was going to go down, but as soon as I left university that changed completely. The journey into the role that I have now, I think, was pretty unconventional, because I actually started out working in marketing, and kind of off the back of that, I started doing some diversity consulting in the audio space, as I realised that that was kind of an industry that was untouched by that sort of work, and I'm very passionate about diversity and inclusion, and that comes out in all the work that I do. I decided that I needed to learn production, because that was going to be a way that I could kind of progress in the industry. And after spending some time in that role, I saw this job advertised at the BBC, which was completely in line with all the things that I'm passionate about, which is podcasting, commissioning and developing diverse stories. To summarise, what my role entails is either working from the development stage and briefing stage, where we kind of have ideas in development, and working with the production teams to really develop the podcast ideas and the talent and bring those to life. It also involves kind of developing the look and feel of the podcast. So what's the artwork going to look like? How's it going to sound with the imaging? How are we going to market it? And then kind of once we've gone through those development stages, it's about pushing it out into the world and basically making sure that the podcast is best as it can be. Okay, so my top tip, if you are interested in getting into the podcast industry, is if it's your type of thing, make a podcast yourself. If you want to be the host, be the host. If you'd rather be behind the scenes, find a podcast that is out there and be the producer of that podcast. The more you know and learn about what it means and what it takes to create a podcast, the better you can apply your skills into having a career in podcasting. And literally anybody can do that. You can literally start podcasting from your bedroom. So I would definitely encourage you to kind of start creating the content that you want to make.
Matt Fincham, head of our wonderful music team and ultimate music geek. I honestly feel like him heading up the music team at Radio 1 was the perfect job for him. He loves his music inside out, and he also helped fix some of our live events.
I'm Matt Fincham, and I am the editor on the Radio 1 music team. So I'm responsible for all the music you hear throughout daytime Radio 1. So I was a bit of a swot at school. I did work very hard, and I'd say probably my favourite subjects were English. I loved creative writing. I also liked languages. I studied French and German, but I studied music as well, and that was one of my favourite subjects. So there's no clear or sort of obviously defined route to get into radio. Everyone has their own story. For me, it was a lot of work experience. So after I studied at school and then I went to university, I did a lot of work experience at local radio stations. I also worked on internet radio stations, and I sent a lot of emails to people just saying, hey, can I come in and get some experience? I made lots of cups of tea. I don't drink coffee, so I had to learn quite quickly how to make a good cup of coffee for people, and basically absorbed all that was going around me. So I sat in on radio shows, I sat in production offices, I shadowed the music team at stations, and just really got an operational understanding of how radio works and how music works on radio. So I'm responsible for the day-to-day running of the music team, and part of that is the Radio 1 playlist. That's probably the most important part of my job. We have a weekly meeting every Tuesday where we decide all of the records we're going to play on Radio 1 in that week. So we will decide, say, if a certain record gets played lots of times or one that only gets a few plays because it's a brand new artist. So inevitably, a big part of my job is listening to a lot of music. Now, I know that sounds quite dreamy. We do get played quite a lot of bad music, I have to be honest, but it's my job and my team's job to filter through that and make sure that the best music prevails. So what you hear on Radio 1 is the very best. One of the parts of the job I really do relish is booking our events. So every May, Radio 1 has an event called Radio 1's Big Weekend, where we go to a town or a city in the UK and have 70,000 people descend there for the weekend and see loads of bands and artists perform live. It really is quite a thrill. I think one of the most important things to do when you're applying for work experience or a job in the music industry or in radio is to demonstrate your passion. I would say we don't expect people to be fully formed when they come to Radio 1. Just give us some inkling of a passion or something that you're really into. So if you want to be a presenter, share some content that you've worked on. It doesn't have to be on a huge platform or have had 1 million views on YouTube. Just show us something that embodies you or demonstrates your ability as a presenter. If you're a musician, don't send 101 demos, send your best track and explain why it's so important to you and why this is the one that really embodies you as an artist. Demonstrate your passion, demonstrate your zeal and love for radio and for music, and that is the most important thing that we would need to see.
I would say if you want to go down the music curation route, the easiest thing is to create playlists on whatever you use as your streaming service. Like, make different themed ones if you want to DJ, maybe the music you play in sets, or if you're a champion of like new artists, new bands, like have a discovery playlist where people can find like the next latest thing. If you want to be a presenter and it says in your school report card every term that you talk too much, just ignore it. Just use it as ammunition to get that career on the radio.